But an equation has an equal sign. So 2x plus 5 is 15 would be an equation, and then just the 2x plus 5 would be an expression. I also think I forgot to upload last week's already. I apologize. Okay, so general strategy for problem solving, it just, the things you want to do, and in this order, would be understand the problem, translate it into an equation, then solve the equation, and interpret the results just means check your answer in the original problem, but then try to think about what your answer tells you about the problem if it's a word problem, and does it make sense within the context of your problem, and then you just tell your answer or state your conclusion. Good. So an equation will have an equal sign, an expression will not have an equal sign. We've already done this, but again, I just want to go over it again. So they're asking us to, this is just a sentence that we're going to translate into an equation, because is the same as is how you would describe an equal sign. So we're going to take this equation, take the sentence, translate it into an equation, and then solve the equation. Okay. So let's look at this. We have twice a number plus 3. I'm going to put the plus and the 3 together because we're adding 3 to it, is the same as the number minus 6. Okay. Plus 3 and minus 6 will make the same color because they're just addition and subtraction, right? Now, a number and the number. The number is just saying again what we already introduced. So we introduced, out of fun colors, we introduced a number, and then we have the number. It's referencing the same number we already introduced. And when you don't know what the number is, that's when you use a variable. So you could use the letter X, you could use the letter Y, you could use the letter Z, okay? So a number and the number are the same. Twice, if you do something twice, you've done it 2 times, right? So we're saying 2 times a number plus 3, I think we know, is the same as that same number minus 6. I'll put it right here. Good. So we have 2 times a number plus 3 is the same as that number minus 6. Rewrite it again. 2 times z, which I'm just going to call 2z, plus 3 equals z minus 6. And then you can read it again to yourself. Like if I was to describe this without looking at this, I would say 2 times a number plus 3, twice a number plus 3, those are the same, equals a number minus 6. And it's not a number because a number would be a different letter, the number. So same letter, that same number minus 6. So I think that makes sense. I have translated it. Now I need to solve it. Okay. Twice was just multiply by 2. 2z plus 3 equals z minus 6. Now we're just going into solving like we did in 2.1. So I want to take all of the letters or the variables and move them this way. And all of the constants or the numbers and move them this way. And then the dividing line will be the equal sign. Oh, sorry. Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Someone's already given me the answer. And somebody else said that I'm cutting out. Does it look clear? Can you guys tell me if it looks okay on your end? Is it okay? Sorry, Riley, I can't hear you. I don't know if you're trying to say something.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was muted.
No, you are muted.
Oh, no.
You're
no,
muted. It just
unmuted.
kept, it like shows your box if you're talking. And I had asked a question. So I
Yeah.
was like, oh, maybe he's trying to answer.
I muted myself. I was just watching, typing stuff in. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I can't hear you, I promise. But is the video okay for you?
Oh, yeah. It's good on my end.
Thank you. All right.
You're welcome.
Let's move. But if it's ever not okay for somebody specifically, you just watch this video later and probably remind me to post it. I apologize for not posting that other one. Moving the variables. So we have a 2z here and we have a z here. I'm going to move the z over by doing the opposite of adding z. Z minus z, those cancel. We just keep the -6 here. 2z minus z is z plus 3. Good. Now I'm moving the constants that way, so I'm going to subtract the 3. We're left with z on this side, -6 minus 3. Because they are both negatives, we're adding them. A 6 and a 3 combined is a 9. And then remember, you keep the sign. If they both have the same sign, you add them and keep the sign. Good? All right. Example 2 is the product of, and then you have to go all the way until after the and, okay? The product of, and then we're going to put all of this together. Twice a number and 3. So this is all product. What is our sign for product? It is multiply, right? So the product of twice a number and 3 is kind of like when you see the and, that's where you put the multiplication sign, okay? Again, we just saw twice a number and we decided that it is 2 times a letter, right? I'll give it a different letter this time. That's not 2 times, that's 2 times x. I chose the letter x. And 3, so we'll just call that a 3, is the same as. Is the same as, we just saw up here, means equals. The difference of. The product means multiply. The difference of means subtract. Okay. That one's going to be subtracting. And again, we take the first phrase, the and the next phrase. So the difference of includes 5 times the number and 3/4. So all the way to there. Good. The difference of 5 times the number. So 5 times, we said the number is x, and 3/4, but it's minus 2x times 3 equals 5x minus 3/4. Good? Okay, so I'm going to write it again. 2x and 3. So we could write it like this, or you could write it as 2 times 3x, either one. Good? Is the same as the difference between 5x and 3/4. Any questions? So that is the same as that. Good. All right. Now we need to solve it. So let's first simplify this. 2 times 3 just becomes 6. So that becomes 6x is 5x minus 3/4. Any questions? All right. Okay. I'm not super comfortable with fractions. So to get rid of a fraction, you take that denominator and you multiply it by everything, right? So I'm going to multiply everything on this side of the equation by 4 and everything on this side of the equation by 4. 4 times 6 becomes 24. I'm going to distribute that 4. So 4 times 5x is 20x. Let me know when I made a mistake. And then 4 times -3/4, that can be rewritten as -3 times 4/4. Is that okay? So if you have a 4 on the top and on the bottom, they cancel out and you just get a -3. So that's why we did it. We did it so that those just cancel each other out. Or you could say -3 times 4 is -12. over 4, 12 divided by 4 is still -3. Okay, there's more than one way to do it, but that's why we did it, so we could cancel those. All right, now same thing. We want variables over here. We want constants over here. Good. So we have 24x equals 20x minus 3. I'm just going to subtract the 20x because it's a positive 20x being combined with a negative 3. So the opposite of a positive 20x is a negative 20x. 24 minus 20 just leaves us with 4x is equal to negative 3. Oh, back to the negative 3 and the 4x. All right. Divide by 4 because that is the opposite of multiplying. Okay. 4x divided by 4 just leaves us with x. I would just leave it as -3/4. It's also negative 0.75. Am I right? Any questions? Find the number. So that number is -3/4. You can check that back in here. So our original equation was 6x equals 5x minus 3/4. And I decided that our answer for x is -3/4 or -0.75. So 6 times -0.75 is the same as 5 times -0.75 minus 3/4. And put that into your calculator. 6 times -0.75 is -4.5. 5 times -0.75 minus 3 divided by 4. You get the same answer. Or you can say, I know that 3/4 is 0.75, so you could say 5 times -0.75 is -3.75 minus 0.75, right? So if it's a decimal or if it's a fraction that you can turn into a short decimal, you can put it into your calculator as either one, whichever one looks easier to you. Good. All right, example 3. A car rental agency advertises renting a Buick Century for $24.95 a day. That would be sweet. And 29 cents per mile. If you rent this car for 2 days, how many whole miles can you drive on a $100 budget? Okay, so we are renting a car. We need to have 3 variables, right? We have days. We have miles. Oh, I'm sorry. We have days, we have miles, and we have the whole cost, right? Days, miles. I guess you could call it rent, but I would call it cost because so as not to confuse myself. So our variables are days, miles, and your rent or your cost. Good. So you just label each one of these is going to be a different number, right? None of these are the same number. So day is going to be the letter D. Mile is going to be the letter M. Cost can be C or it can be your R, whatever you want to give it. It does not matter. Okay. Or my math lab will probably tell you what they want. So it's $24.95 for each day that you use it. Good. And 29 cents for each mile you drive it. That will be your entire cost. Good. So if we go back to that idea of problem solving, it was understand the problem, translate it into an equation. $24.95 a day and 29 cents per mile. So if I read that back to myself, it still makes sense. It still represents my problem, right? And then we can solve it. So rent the car for 2 days. How many whole miles can you drive on a $100 budget? So my $100 budget is my cost, right? So I know my cost is going to be $100, and the days I want to rent it for are 2. So if I know C and I know D, I just need to solve for M. So instead of C, I'm going to put in 100. That same $24.95 is going to be multiplied. Remember, I always put parentheses around the variable when I'm changing it to a number. So we're going to multiply it by 2. Sorry, I did not put parentheses around the 100. Plus, you could either say 0.29 or 0.29. That's the same number times M, okay? So now we are going to solve for our one variable, and our one variable is M, or the number of miles I'm traveling. So 100 is 24.95 times 2. I would just put that into my calculator. Remember, you can use the Desmos.com calculators on the exam. So if you're using your phone or you're using a different web-based calculator, I would start using that one just because then you'll be familiar with it on the exam. So 24.95 times 2 is 49.90 or 49.9. Oops. So that becomes 49.90. That remains 29 cents per mile because we don't know M. Good. Now I want my variables on one side, constants on the other. Since my only constant is M and it's already over here, I'm just going to move the 49 over here. It does not matter which direction you move things. So that cancels that. 100 minus 49.9 is 50.1 or $50.10. So I have $50.10 to spend on my gas. My gas is going to cost me $29 per mile, or sorry, 29 cents per mile. That'd be crazy. So I'm going to take what is being multiplied by the mileage and divide it. So 0.29 M divided by 0.29. Anything I do to this side, I have to do to this side. So 50.1 divided by 0.29 gives me 172.76. So again, that was 50.1 divided by 0.29 gives me 172.76 miles. That's the number of miles I can travel. But if I go back and read it, does that answer my question? A car rental agency advertised renting a car for $29.95 a day and 29 cents per mile. If I rent the car for 2 days, how many whole miles? Okay, so I need to notice the word whole here. My number is not a whole number. It's 172.76. I only had $100 to spend. So if I spend exactly $100, I'll get 172.76 miles. I can't go 173, right? That would be more than $100, but I can go 172 and ignore that. Even though if I was rounding it, it's closer to 173 than 172. I can't go over $100, so I can't go above this number. So that becomes just 172. Good. I can put it back into my equation. My cost is 29. My hand isn't doing like what my brain is saying. 24.95 times 2 plus 0.29 times 172 only. If I put that into my calculator, 24.95 times 2 days. It's still 49.9. And 172 miles at 29 cents per mile is 49.88. Good. So I have 49.88 and 49.90. My total is 99.78. So that is within my budget. I didn't go over my budget. I probably can't go another mile. Okay, so my answer does make sense within the question. I can drive 172 miles. Example 4 asks us the measure of the second angle of a triangle, which is twice the measure of the smallest angle. The measure of the third angle of the triangle is 3 times the measure of the smallest angle. Find the measure of the angles. This is not,
Miss Dompierre,
yes.
the school is actually sending me home. Is it okay if I go so I can go to the doctor?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
of course. Okay, they're not going to ask you a question like this without explaining to you how many degrees there are in a triangle and giving you a picture, okay? Because this is a lot. In my opinion, this is not a geometry class. All right, here's a triangle. We have 3 angles in a triangle, right? Those 3 angles are going to add up to 180 degrees, always. Every triangle's angles add up to 180 degrees. So if we have the first angle, the second angle, and the smallest angle. I did not do that well. There's no smaller angle. Okay. The measure of the second angle of a triangle is twice the measure of the smallest angle. The measure of the third angle is 3 times the measure of the smallest angle. So we have the smallest angle, and we're just going to call that x. Okay, this is just x. This is the smallest angle. Good. The second angle, which could be either of those, it doesn't matter, is twice the smallest angle. So twice whatever the smallest angle was, which we decided was x. Good. The measure of the second angle of a triangle is twice the measure of the smallest angle. The measure of the third angle of the triangle is 3 times the measure of the smallest angle. Is that okay? Are you okay with how I got that? Find the measure of the angles. So we have all 3 of the angles together, added together, make 180. I should make that clear. So it's angle 1 and angle 2 and angle 3 equal 180. Okay. So here we have angle 1 is x, angle 2 is 2x, angle 3 is 3x equal 180 degrees. Anytime you're adding these 3 numbers of the triangle, you're going to equal 180. So they'll give you that information in MyMathLab if necessary. Now we need to solve it to find the measures of the angles. Does that make sense? The second angle is twice the measure of the smallest angle. The third angle is 3 times the measure of the smallest angle. Find the measures of the angles. So I think what I represented makes sense with this. Good. So x plus 2x plus 3x, that's just 3 plus 2 plus 1. 3 plus 2 is 5, plus 1 is 6, right? 6x is 180. Now, if I want to get what x is, I'm going to divide by 6. So I'm just solving it now. 180 divided by 6 is actually 30 because 18 divided by 6 is 3, right? And then you keep the 0. So x is 30. So our smallest angle is 30 degrees. Our second smallest angle is 2 times 30 degrees, which is 60 degrees. And then our biggest angle is 3 times 30 degrees, which is 90 degrees. So angle 1 is 30, angle 2 is 60, and angle 3 is 90. If I add 60, 90, and 30, do I get 180? Yes, I get 180. And more importantly, if x equals 30, 30 plus 2 times 30 plus 3 times 30 equals 180. So my equation, it's true within the equation I created. So the measures of the three angles are 30 degrees, 60 degrees, and 90 degrees. Again, they're not going to leave you without this information on the homework. Any questions? Or am I going too fast? Example 5, there's going to be a lot of example 5s in the homework. So do make sure that if you need another example, just ask me for another example. Good. And example 5 is find the sum of 3 consecutive even integers when they add up to 252. Okay, so this, again, we can translate the sum of means we're adding 3 consecutive. We know what 3 is, right? But consecutive means they are in a row. Right? Like the baseball team has won its last 3 consecutive games of even, right? Even means not odd, right? Ending in 2, 4, 6, 8, or 0. An integer, it's okay if you didn't memorize integer, I think. Integer just means a whole number in this case, right? It could be negative, it could be 0, or it could be positive. So integers just means a whole number, no decimals, no fractions. It's not a fraction, it's not a decimal. So if we add 3 numbers that are in an even row, we will get 252. Okay. I'm going to give an example of the same question. So 3 consecutive integers, not even integers. Okay. 3 consecutive integers add to, or their sum is 138. Good. So that's the difference. Even means we have to skip every other number, right? But consecutive integers mean they're exactly in a row, like 1, 2, 3. Whereas consecutive even integers would be 2, skip number 3, pick 4, skip number 5, pick 6, right? 2, 4, 6, rather than 1, 2, 3. 3 consecutive integers add to 138. So if they are consecutive, we have the number, for example, we have the number 4, we have the number 5, and we have the number 6. Those are consecutive integers, right? Remember with the degrees, we made the smallest angle equal to a letter, and then we found the value of the next angle in terms of the smallest angle. So 2x is in terms of x. It's twice as big as x, right? The third times the measure of the smallest angle we put in terms of x. So it's 3x, okay? We don't know how to solve this except in terms of x. So we said our smallest one is x. The next one is 2 times x. The next one is 3 times x. And we know it's equal to 180. So we're doing that exact same thing over here. X plus 2x plus 3x is 180, okay? So keeping that in your mind, we make one thing x and the other two in terms of x, you call it, okay? So here we know it's going to equal 138, right? I have consecutive integers. So if it was 4, 5, and 6, and we wanted to put it in terms of 4, 4 is just our number, n. right? 5 in terms of 4 is n. And how did we change it? We added 1. Okay? 6 is that same number, but we added 2, right? I got ahead of myself with the 138, right? 4 and 5 and 6 equal 15. N plus n plus 1 plus n plus 2 equal, and you can treat those all separately now, n plus 1 plus n plus 2. Now we're just combining like terms, okay? I know this is one, two, three n's. 2 plus 1 is 3, okay? And we said that n was 4. So does 3n plus 3 equal 15? If n equals 4? Good. 3 times 4 is 12. Plus 3 is 15. That is true, okay? So what we did there, ignoring this false start I gave us, but we said 4 and 5 and 6 equal 15. In terms of the first number, we said that 4 is the first number, 5 is that first number plus 1, 6 is that first number plus 2. We combined like terms and we got the equation 3n plus 3. Good. 3n plus 3 is 15. 3 times 4 is, or sorry, then we put it back in terms of the smallest integer. 3 times 4 is 12 plus 3 is 15. All right, so now we want it to equal 138, okay? 138, but you can use this same equation. We don't know what the n is, right? We don't know if it's 4. Well, it's not 4 because 4 would be 15. But we know it's going to be n. The next consecutive integer is going to be n plus 1. And that next consecutive integer is going to be n plus 2. Any questions? So here's integer number 1, our first integer, our second consecutive integer, and our third consecutive integer. That's how we write them. Whatever your first number is, it's the next integer, we added 1 to it. The next integer, we added 2 to that original integer, okay? Now we just combine like terms, and it's going to look like this again. So it's going to be 3 n's. N plus n is 3n. And then 2 plus 1 is 3 equals 138. Good. We don't know that n is 4 this time. So now we have to solve for n. So 3n plus 3 equals 138. I'm going to move the constants over. 3n equals 138 minus 3 is 135. Now I just divide by 3. Divide by 3. 135 divided by 3 is 45. Good. So n is 45. Good. So our 3 consecutive integers that add to 138 are 45. This one's going to be 46, right? And this one's going to be 47. Do 45, 46, and 47 add to 138? They do. Is that okay? All right, so let's go to, one moment. If we're looking at our My Math Lab assignment, let me share it. All right, here's just a random example from my math lab, okay? So number 6 says complete the following table. First integer, 3 consecutive integers. The first integer is 8. All described integers would be, 18, 18, 19, and 20. If your first integer is instead the letter D, then your first term is going to be D. Your next term is going to be D plus 1, right? Because it's consecutive. And then the next one's going to be D plus 2. Does that make sense? So they are 3 consecutive integers, and we start with D. D, D plus 1, D plus 2. If they are even, you see the difference? If Z is even, then we're, instead of saying Z plus 1, we're going to say Z plus 2, right? Because if I'm going 2, 4, 6, in terms of 2, it's going to be Z plus 1 would be 3. So it has to be Z plus 2 to get to 4. And then this is Z plus 4 to get all the way to 6. So for even integers, we're adding 2 and we're adding 4. If they are consecutive and it's not even or odd, we're just adding 1. Okay, so that's an important note. And then what else? This we can do. Oh, I guess I said there were a ton of them, but there are not a ton of them. All right. Here, the sum, number 20, the sum of 3 consecutive even integers is 276. Okay, so that's just like our last example. The sum of 3 consecutive even integers is 254. So let's finish this. Any questions? So we know the sum is 256. The sum means we are adding 3 numbers together, okay? The first number we just call, you can call it anything. They called it Z, they called it X, I called it N. Let's try W, okay? So my first integer is W. If it's even, my next integer is going to be W plus 2. Because 2 plus 2 is 4, or 4 plus 2 is 6, 6 plus 2 is 8, 8 plus 2 would be 10, right? So if it's even, we have to add 2. And then after that, we have to add 4 to get to the next even term. Good. Now we're just going to combine like terms. I have a W, and a W become 3 Ws. And I have the numbers 4 and 2, which are become 6, equals 256. Now we're just solving this because writing the equation is definitely the hardest part for me. Subtract 6, 3W equals 250. Good. Divide 250 by 3. What do you get? Did I do something wrong? 250. I wrote this. Guys, just stop me when I'm making these. 252. 252 minus 6. 252 minus 6 is 246. Divided by 3. Good. 246 divided by 3 is, thankfully, a whole number, 82. You're not done yet. You found your first number, right? I know W is 82. Now I put it back in here. So now I have W plus 2 plus W plus 4. My W is 82, so that's now 82 and 82 plus 2, and I guess I don't need to add them. This is 82 plus 4. Is that all right? So my consecutive even integers are 82, 84, Good. All right, I know we only have 6 minutes of class left, but I want you to also be able to do all of the, there's some percentage problems in my math lab, okay? So going back to share screen, let's look at 18, okay? 18 says the perimeter of a triangle is 140. So if your perimeter is 140, that means you're adding these three together to equal 140, okay? So you're gonna say 5x plus 7x plus 1 plus 7x plus 6 equals 140, and you're gonna solve it, okay? This one we've already seen, but now they're giving us percents. Good, like number 15. In a survey at a local university, 58% of students said that they get less than the recommended 8 hours of sleep per night. Out of 4,500 students, how many get 8 or more hours of sleep per night? So you need to know how to get 58% of a number and whether they're asking for the 58% or the 42%. Good? Okay, so if I have, let's just talk about percents. If I have $100, what would be 50% of my money? It would be $50, right? But we might just know that because it's a common percent. The way you find a percent is you take your whole, so in this case, our whole number is 100, and you multiply it by that percent, but you change the percent to a decimal by moving the decimal point to the 2 to the left. Good. So 50% as a decimal is, you write that same 50 with the decimal point here, you move the decimal to the left 2. Good. So 50% is 0.5. 0.5 is the same as 50% or 0.50, right? 75% is 0.75. 150% is 1.5. Okay. So you take that percent, you turn it into a decimal, and you multiply that decimal times the whole. Multiply the decimal form of the percent by the whole amount. Okay, so 50% of 100 is 100 times 0.5 or times 0.50, so we get 50. 75% of 100, see how I put 0.75, will be 75. So if I said, what is 23.8% of 1,234, right? If you don't know how to do it, that would be very confusing. But remember, you take that decimal point, you move it over 2. So 23.8% is 0.238 times 1,234. Good. 1,234 times 0.238. It's actually 293.69. Okay. If they're asking for more, so what's 210% of 8? Okay. 210% as a decimal, remember you move it 2 decimal places, so it's 2.1 times 8. 2.1 times 8 is 16.8. So 16.8 is 210% of 8. In that question about the sleep study, they wanted 50, they said 58% of 4,500, right? That would be 0.58 times 4,500. But they said how many, those are the people who do not sleep enough. How many people get enough sleep? So 58% is 2,610. Oh, sorry, we're out of time. And then the remaining 42% is, you can take that original amount and subtract it, or you could have subtracted 58 from 100 and gotten 42. So it's 1,890. Okay, sorry guys, I went over. Let me stop.